What's the Fort Thomas real estate market looking like in 2019? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. So hey everyone, welcome back. This is Sztanyo from Keller Williams Realty and TeamStanyo.com, where we are helping families find their way home. And today we wanted to do a market spotlight on Fort Thomas, Kentucky, my hometown, where I choose to live with my family, and I love this area. And we did a video last year in 2018 on Fort Thomas, so we just wanted to follow up, see what's going on, kind of right in the heart of the selling season here in the summer of 2019, and take a look at the stats and see what's going on with the bigger trends in Fort Thomas, Kentucky. So let's dive right in. I got a few reports we want to look at, and then after those reports, maybe talk about what are some of the things you should be thinking about if you're thinking of either buying or selling a home in Fort Thomas. So let's look at this. All right. The first report I pulled up here is from, what we're looking at here is the average sales price to list price comparison. And the reason I wanted to pull this one up is because we're really seeing no change. The last few years, it's been a seller's market. There's no question about that. We've been kind of harping on that, like, hey, look, there's low supply, there's high demand. If you want to sell your home, this is a great time to sell. And so what we're seeing with these numbers is, and basically what this is sharing is, what sale price do the homes get for their list price? So in June of 17, that was 98.52%, and in June of 2019, virtually no change. You're at 98.47%. Now, if you happen to make one price drop, that number goes down slightly to around 95%. But what we're seeing over the last 2 years here is it's remarkably the same. If you're going to list your home, if you price it right, you should be getting about 98% of your list price. Make sure you're working with an agent to list it right and price it right. It's one of the most important things you can do when you list your home. But let's go on to the next report. So this is really interesting to me, that while the list to sale price has stayed very constant, the average and the median price are not. So if you go back to 2017, we were really hot. The average sale price in Fort Thomas in June 2017 was about $298,000, and here in June 2019, that's all the way down to $266,000, a difference of almost about 11%. Okay, same thing with the median price. In June 2017, it was at $250,000. In June 19, it's at $221,000, a difference of about 11.5%. So that's really interesting to me. What is that telling us? It's not necessarily saying we're in a buyer's market yet, but we are seeing kind of the trend, the shift. If you look around in June 2018 here, you're seeing similar numbers. It looks like the median price was down in 2018 from 2017 in June, and it's down, it's about the same here in 2019, maybe even slightly higher. But overall, in the last 2 years, you've seen about a 10% dip. So we were telling you to sell your house. Maybe you didn't take our word for it, but that's a trend line you want to be keeping a look at here. What we've seen over the last few years is sellers, pushing that limit for how high they could sell their home for. That's what happens in the market. And this year, we're seeing buyers are saying no, and that average and median sale price is going down a bit. Okay, so the next thing I want to look at is just purely economic slide here, right? Which is supply and demand, and the story that it's telling us here. So first of all, we want to look at the total number of units sold. In June 2017, that was 81 units. In June 2019, that was 72. That's not sold, but for sale. So there was 81 units for sale versus 72, a difference of about 11%. Okay. Now the number sold was 13 versus 12, about the same. It's down about 8%. What is that telling us? It's telling us that even though the average and median prices are going down slightly, there's still very, very low amount of inventory on the market. Okay, in fact, it's even lower now than it was 2 years ago. So while the average and median prices might be down, the inventory is still down, which means that you can still probably get your home sold quickly, which is what I wanted to look at on this last chart, which is the average days on market And in June 2017, that average days on market, the number of homes that were sold from 0 to 90 days was 37 versus 30. So that's down slightly, 19%, 25% if you're in that 90 to 180 range. This one was interesting to me, that houses that have been on market over 180 days, so over 6 months, jumped up 50%. Now it's a small sample size. It's 8 homes versus 12 homes. But what that tells me a little bit is that sellers have kind of this idea that, hey, my neighbor sold for this much, and I should be able to sell for at least this much. And some of those people are leaving their houses on the market a little bit longer. That's driving that number up. So those are some of the market dynamics. I wanted to look at one other thing that's always interesting to me in Fort Thomas, which if you live in Fort Thomas, or if you sold in Fort Thomas, or if you bought in Fort Thomas, you know that it's hard to get in, right? The inventory is always really low. Stuff always goes really, really fast. You have to move super fast. So another thing that a lot of sellers think of is, well, I don't need an agent. I can just do for sale by owner. And so what's interesting to me, I just pulled this up on Zillow, of how many for sale by owners do we have on the market. This one's interesting to me. There's 12 up there right now. This one, let's take a look at this, at 10 Ohio Avenue. It's been on the market 57 days, and they just had a price cut of $15K. And this is what we see a lot with for sale by owners, is they tend to overprice, right? They come out hot and they're like, well, it's Fort Thomas, of course it'll sell for this much. And now they've been on the market almost double the time that's average in Fort Thomas, and they're making a price cut. And if you if you scroll down and look at some of these other for sale by owners, this one had a price cut of $50,000. 227 Highland Avenue. This one had a price cut of $15,000. This one's been on the market 44 days. This one's been on the market 92 days. So, you know, the for sale by owner route, this one's been on the market 56 days. Sometimes it can work. Sometimes it means you're going to be price cutting, because a lot of times what you get when you're for sale by owner, you're going to get looky-loos. You're going to get neighbors who want to come see it. You might not necessarily get qualified buyers that are working with a real estate agent. So just something to think about. Overall, where's the market stand? What should you be thinking about? If you're looking to sell in Fort Thomas, Kentucky, it's still a great time. Demand is still high, supply is still low. Now that average price is starting to go down a little bit. Doesn't mean you can't get a great price for your home. Doesn't mean that you can't, now's not a super time if you want to sell your home to have the least amount of hassle and sell it for as fast as possible. And those are the things that when you're selling a home, that's always something to consider. How long is it going to take me? How many showings am I going to have to do? How long am I going to have to keep my house super clean? How long am I going to have to get the kids out? So it's still a really good time to sell. If you're a buyer, what you might want to be thinking about is working with an agent to kind of find those spots of where could I get the price down just a little bit. Maybe sellers have stretched it a little too far, and the average and median price is down a little bit, and so maybe I can get a home for a little bit less than what I would have in 2018 or 2017. So if you're thinking of buying or selling a home in Fort Thomas, Kentucky, we'd love for you to reach out to Team Sztanyo. We live in Fort Thomas. We know the market really well. We'd love to help you find your way home. Thanks so much for watching this video. We'll see you next time.